Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on Play Games. My name is Lance, and today I'll teach you how to play the Grimm Masquerade. This is a new game from Druid City Games and Skybound Games. It is a 2 to 5 player game that takes roughly 30 to 60 minutes to play, and is a competitive game, so each player is going to be collecting points, and the player that has the most points will be the overall winner at the end of the game. For this video, please make sure you have your Klingon text turned on, and if you do, you should have a test text at the bottom of your screen. This way I can update you with any rules corrections or anything that I forgot to put in the video that I can add at a later point. If you find these videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to my channel, as it really does make a big difference, helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. If you want to stay up to date on all my videos, also consider ringing that bell so you get notifications anytime I release new content. So let's head to the table, and I'll teach you guys how to play. There are 8 different characters included in the Grimm Masquerade: the Big Bad Wolf, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Rumpelstiltskin, the Evil Queen, the Beast, Red Riding Hood, and Hansel. Each character card is going to have the image of that character and that character's name at the bottom of the card. In the top left-hand corner is going to list that character's boon artifact, and if they can gain 3 of these during the round, then they will win that round and collect the Rose Trophy. And at the bottom right-hand corner is that character's Bane artifact, and if they collect 2 of these, or are forced to have 2 of these, then they automatically unmask their character and reveal their character to all players. The artifact deck is going to contain 8 different artifact cards, which are the Crown, Mirror, Clock, Cauldron, Spindle, Glass Slippers, Treats, and Disguise. The other deck of cards in the base game are the action cards, and each round these will be randomly dealt out next to the point the finger board. And during a player's turn, they can discard a pair of artifacts to take an action, which is either the point the finger action or one of the 2 other actions that are next to the point the finger board. And these will be changed out at the end of each one of the rounds. Moving into setup, first off I want to let you know that this is just the base game setup. The advanced game, I'm going to cover some of the additional rules for that after I cover the base game. So for this setup, you're going to place the main board out in the middle of the table. Then you can gather up the point the finger board and place that on the bottom, and then shuffle up the action cards and deal out 1 on either side of the point the finger board. You can place the rest of them next to it. Then you can place out all the Rose tokens, and for this video I'm going to be using the Crystal Fortress pod sets. If you want to know more about those, check in the description and I'll have a link to their website. Then you can also place out the Rose Trophy tokens, all of the mirrors when you have players that get revealed, the player cards, and shuffle these up and deal 1 of these to each player, and I'm going to be playing a 3-player game. The rest of the cards can be kept off to the side of the board and will be used for some of the actions. Each player is also going to choose a color that they want to be, and will collect the 7 tokens of that color, and we'll get a quick reference guide as well. Finally, you can shuffle up the artifact deck and deal out a number of them face up based on the number of players plus 2. So since I'm playing with 3 players, I'll deal out 5 cards to start out. The rest of the cards can be placed off to the side, and make sure you leave room underneath that for the discard pile. From there, there's one important thing I want to point out. Each character or each player wants to keep their character hidden from the other players, but make sure you know what player you're playing as. So for this video, I am going to turn these face up so you can see how this works. But like I said, normally these are going to be kept hidden from all the other players so that nobody knows who the other players are. Then you're going to choose 1 player to be the starting player. So I'm going to have the player in the middle be the starting player. And then going from that player in a clockwise manner, each player is going to choose 1 artifact that they want to start with. So our first player here is going to take the clock. Then we'll move over to the next player, and that player is going to take the disguise. And finally over to the Evil Queen player, who is going to take a cauldron. Any remaining artifacts will be discarded below the artifact deck to create the discard pile. At this point, then we're ready to move into the game. The Grimm Masquerade is played over 3 rounds, and during each round, each player is going to take on the role of a fairy tale character that is kept hidden from the other players. Then, starting with the first player and proceeding in a clockwise manner, each player will take a turn, and this is going to continue until only 1 player's identity is still secret. At that point, that player will gain the Rose Trophy for the round, and this is going to continue for 3 rounds, or until one player is able to collect 10 rose points, which is a combination of rose trophies and rose tokens. Or at the end of 3 rounds, the player that has the most rose points will be the overall winner of the game. Moving into the game, starting with the first player and proceeding around the board, each player is going to get to take a turn, and this is going to continue until only one player remains unmasked. At that point, that player will collect the rose trophy for the round, and then the players will reset up for the next round unless this is the final round. So moving into our player's turn, during each player's turn they have 2 steps that they can do. The first step is mandatory and the player must do it. The second step is optional. So starting with my first player, the first step in the round is to draw an artifact card. So he's going to draw the top card of the artifact deck and look at it. At this point, the player has a choice. He can either collect this card and add it face up to his tableau, or he can pass it to another player, adding it to their tableau face up. So our center player here, he drew treats, so he's going to pass this to another player. So he's going to pass it to the player to his left, and then as the second part of this, he is going to collect the next artifact and do the opposite action. So since he passed the first, he must keep the second. So the second happens to be a clock. Now, one other important thing with this that I want to point out is anytime a player passes an artifact to another player or collects an artifact, if it makes a matching set of artifacts, then that player has to go through a couple steps. First off, if the matching set of artifacts is that player's Bane artifact, then they have to unmask their character and reveal that they are that character. If it is not, then that player has to place an evidence marker on the character on the board that artifact, that pair of artifacts matches the Bane of. So with my player here, he did collect a pair of clocks, so he has to place his marker on Cinderella saying that he is not Cinderella, as that is her Bane artifact. And my character's Bane artifact is the glass slippers. And this is true for other players as well. Now, if I passed the treats and this was a set that matched that player's character as their Bane artifact, then they would have to reveal their character and unmask them, and then my character would receive a rose token for unmasking them. Now, one other important note is if I unmask my own character, I would not receive a rose token for that. The other important thing is if you have 3 of a kind of the same set, then again you have to say whether that is your boon artifact, and if it is not, then you will place an evidence marker just like with the Bane artifact. If it is your boon artifact, then you will again unmask and reveal your character, and then immediately gain the rose trophy for the round, and that round will come to an end. Now that I've completed the first step, I can choose to do the second step as an optional one. If I have any matching pairs of artifacts, I can choose to spend one of those to perform one of the 3 actions that is listed on one of the 2 cards or on the board of the point the finger. Again, this is an optional step. I do not have to do this. I can simply not spend any pairs that I have and pass it on to the next player. And this can be done once per player turn. So my player here is not going to do anything else, and so I'm going to pass it on to the next player to start their turn. So I went ahead and moved it ahead a couple turns, and I want to take you through another turn to show you a little bit more of an in-depth turn. So again, moving over to my next player to take their turn, he is going to start off by drawing an artifact card. So he drew the mirror. So he is going to keep that and draw another one, which is the glass slippers, which he's going to pass to his player over here, which again is a matching pair. So then this player is going to have to say if it is their Bane or not, which unfortunately for this player, it is their Bane. So this player will reveal their beast card, removing any evidence tokens that are out there from the board, covering up that character with the broken mirror symbol, showing that that character has been eliminated. And then since this player over here unmasks this character, he will also gain a rose token. Then that player's second step, he can choose to spend one of his matching sets to perform one of the actions. So he is going to do that. He's going to spend the treats and place them in the discard pile and then choose one of these 3 actions to perform. So he's going to go ahead and try to point the finger and end the round if he can unmask that second player. So he's going to say that the second player is Sleeping Beauty. So at that point, then the player is going to say yes or no. And that player is going to say no because he is not Sleeping Beauty. So he will mark that that is not his character. And then because he was falsely accused, then he is going to gain a rose token. Now, if our player over here would have guessed correctly, he would have received 2 rose tokens, one for the guess and one for unmasking that character. So again, our player's turn is done over here, so it would move over to the next player in clockwise order to start. So our player over there is going to go. So again, that player is going to reveal a card. They will keep it or pass it over, and then he's going to go ahead and draw and keep the second. So it's another glass slipper. And she does not have any pairs yet, so there's nothing else that she can do during her turn. Now, the one other important thing that I want to cover is when a player is unmasked. So now that our player over here has been unmasked, when this happens, he's going to collect all of the artifacts that he has and add them to his hands. At this point, he cannot gain the 3 boon artifacts to win the round, but he can still take a turn. So during a unmasked player's turn, they're going to draw 1 artifact from the artifact deck, adding it to their hands, and then they're going to play an artifact on another player, trying to unmask that player. And if they're successful, then they will gain a rose in that way. So our player is going to play the mirror on our player over here, and that player is not the evil queen, so they'll mark it as such. The one other important note, on an unmasked player's turn, they cannot play a pair of artifacts to take an action. They can only pass 1 artifact to a player. A round is going to end in 2 ways. If there's only 1 player left standing that has not been unmasked, then that player will win and end the round immediately, or if a player has their 3 matching boon artifacts. So let me show you an example of this. Let's say that this player had drawn the 3rd disguise, which would be his 3rd boon artifact. So then again, immediately that player would reveal his character, unmasking him, and then the round would be over and that player would gain the round trophy rose for that. At that point, then the players are going to gather up all of their evidence markers again. You'll go ahead and clear the board of any of the mirrors, and then all players will go ahead and discard all of their artifacts, as well as their character cards, and these will be shuffled back up and the players will be redealt new character cards. You'll also go ahead and discard the artifact or the action cards and deal out 2 new ones. Then go ahead and gather up all the artifacts, shuffle those up as well, and do the same thing we did when we started the game. So you'll reveal a number of artifacts based on the number of players plus 2. So again, we will reveal 5 artifacts since we're playing with 3 players. And then you're going to choose a new starting player, and it'll be the player with the fewest rose tokens, or if there is a tie, it'll be the player to the left of the player that was the first player last round. So with this player having the fewest rose tokens, they will be the first player again, and we'll start off by choosing 1 of the artifacts to keep, and this will continue with each player taking 1. So we'll say that player takes that, and this player takes this one. These 2 will be discarded, and then we'll be ready to start a new round, starting with the first player. The game will be over after 3 rounds are complete, and at that point, each player is going to total up the number of rose trophies and rose tokens that they have, and the player that has the most will be the winner of the game. So our player over here had collected 2 rose trophies for a total of 8 points, plus 1 for 9. Player in the middle had 4 points, and the player on the ends had 4 points as well, so our player over here was the winner of the game. Once you have a couple of games under your belt, you can also choose to add variants to the game, and there are 3 different variants included. You can add 1 or all of these, or any combination of them that you choose. So the first one I'm going to look at are the wager cards, and if you choose to include this, you're also going to shuffle in the action card secrets with the action deck. From there, you're going to, for setup, you're going to place the wager cards next to the board, and the wager deck contains 1 card of each character who could be in the masquerade ball. If you possess a wager card at the end of the round that matches the character who ultimately won that round, then you also win, gaining roses equal to the value of the rose trophy for that round. And there are two different ways you can gain a wager card. The first is an unmasking, so if you are unmasked, you may immediately select a wager card, or you can wait and gather more information before selecting a wager card on any of your subsequent turns. Be careful not to wait too long, as the round may end suddenly, or another player may take the wager card you want. Unmasked players only get to choose one wager card in this way. And when the second to the last player is unmasked, the round ends immediately, and that player does not get to select a wager card since the identity of the winner is already known. The other way that the player can get a wager card is the action secrets. You get to take the wager deck and select one wager card of a character you think will win the round. You can place it face down next to your tableau, making sure not to reveal it to the other players, and then return the remaining wager cards face down next to the board. You may use this action on as many of your turns as you wish, as long as you discard a pair of artifacts each time to pay for it. You can also select the wager card of your own character. In this way, you're betting on yourself to win the round, potentially doubling your prize. The second variant is treasures, and in this variant, players are going to start each round with one treasure token each. And on your turn, you may combine your treasure token with any artifact card you have in your tableau and discard them both to take an action instead of discarding a pair of artifacts like usual. In this way, players may discard one of their Bane artifacts, or they may use the treasure token to bluff by discarding a different artifact. And if you do not use your treasure token, exchange it for one rose at the end of the round. And the third variant you can choose to add are the special ability cards. In this variant, the player or players with the fewest roses are going to gain a special ability card for the character they played in the previous round. During the next round, this special ability is in effect and will help shape their strategy. So let me show you an example of this. Let's go ahead and say that our player was playing Cinderella in the previous round and had the fewest roses. So during the next round, that player is going to receive a new character, and they will also receive the Humble Gifts, which matches the Cinderella card they had the previous round. Then with this card, it's going to activate during their turn, and it says if you have no pairs at the start of your turn, you may draw one artifact and keep it or give it away. And this is in addition to your regular action during your turn, so you're still going to get to draw and give away artifacts and keep one just like normal, but this is an additional ability that your player will have during each one of your turns, as long as you match the requirements on it. And each one of the character's abilities is different and is going to be outlined on page 14 of the rulebook. Well, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I do really appreciate it, and I take into account everything you say to make the best possible videos. If you found this video helpful, if you like what I do, please consider that like button and subscribe to my channel, as it really does make a big difference. It helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.